All right, I'm here with Mark, the founder of Growth Marketing Pro. Mark, how you doing today?
Good, Andrew. Nice to see you. Nice to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So for those that may not know you, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah. So I've been in digital marketing for 12-ish years now. I was working at startups in San Francisco, a company called Realty Shares, a company called PlushCare, one called Minted. Along the way, my business partner, Hailey, and I started a blog at growthmarketingpro.com and wrote exclusively about digital marketing stuff, what we were learning at startups. We're able to grow that blog via organic traffic, and along the way, started getting asked for help on how we could grow other companies' organic traffic. Basically, through the course of helping other companies, we hatched the idea for GrowthBar. GrowthBar is an AI writing tool for SEOs. So it was really like we were the people solving our own need. Fast forward to today, we've now sold GrowthBar. Hailey and I are focused now completely on Growth Marketing Pro Agency.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Blink twice if the acquisition was 7 figures.
I can't blink.
All right, we'll leave it there. Well, I got some questions. So again, congrats on the acquisition of GrowthBar. We were all rooting for you as a team, so it's always exciting to see when those go through.
Thank you.
But what got you into entrepreneurship? It sounds like you were working on some tech companies and you made that leap. That's really scary for a lot of people. What made you take that leap?
Yeah. I think Hailey and I had a interesting introduction to like entrepreneurship in that we started it as a side business. I see you tweet about this too. And it's like, and actually there's like a whole Twitter culture of like the solopreneur, like side hustler. And I actually think it's a great way to build a business is just as a side hustle, because then you can be 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out and still make, a paycheck and get to build something you really love on the side. So, we built Growth Marketing Pro. I think she quit her day job 3 years in. I probably quit like 4 years in, something like that. But we really stepped into it as a side hustle with our blog.
Nice. So every entrepreneur has mistakes, struggles, obstacles they've gone through. What would you say your biggest, obstacle, either building GrowthBar or Growth Marketing Pro or just anything else? What's like your biggest mistake?
Oh, good one. Good one. There's a million. I think, I want to say with GrowthBar, it was going too wide. I think a lot of VCs and stuff will tell you like go narrow and deep on one product and one, use case. And I think with GrowthBar, I think it's good advice sometimes, but sometimes you need to go broad enough in order for the tool to be useful. And for GrowthBar, that meant adding SEO features as well. Like, it's an AI writing tool, but also needs to help you plan, write, and rank and follow your rankings for the content that you're creating in the name of SEO. So like I don't know if it was like a real struggle, but it was like always trying to find that balance between broad and narrow. And I think we went too broad in the beginning. I think we spent a lot of time and resources creating keyword research stuff from scratch that, perhaps we didn't need to spend that time doing. And we could have refined the core product, which was the AI writing for SEO product. It's not a good answer.
No, it is. I've actually made the exact same mistake. At my first startup, it was called Business Apps. It was a do-yourself drag and drop mobile app builder. We made mobile apps for everybody, restaurants, hotels, barbershops. But if we went narrow on like one vertical, I think we could have grown further. But I actually would maybe now I'm thinking, I think all entrepreneurs, reflect on stuff like that. Like I wish I could went narrow because it worked out for me and it obviously worked out for you. So,
but the going broad also helps you find that like, what is that wedge sort of thing a little bit, And especially when you're bootstrapped too, like in my mind, like SEO and affiliate marketing are the two things that I love. And like the more features you have and the more the wider the target audience, the more opportunity there is to, rank for those keywords and bring customers in the door who wouldn't have otherwise heard of you. So like narrow and deep is great for customer retention and like giving somebody something they can't live without. But for customer acquisition, I actually like the broad. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth.
No, I can relate to that because we were bootstrapped as well. So, I think the long-term strategy, if we just said, hey, we're going to go all dominate this one sector, maybe it probably would have been restaurants. Like I look at companies like Chow Now and everyone has like a mobile app for restaurants, but that growth would have been, slower, a bit longer. But when you're bootstrapped, you're just kind of like, we'll service any customer.
Whoever got money.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's transition over to GrowthBar. Where'd you get the idea from it? What made you start that company?
It was like serving a need that we had. So serving the need for our marketing agency, we are creating content for a number of companies. And in every single case, the company is super different. So there's keyword research involved. There's like understanding what the business even does. Then there's what are their, guidelines for writing? Like, do they talk about us talk about themselves in the we voice, the I voice, what? And basically it's like a process that's super artisanal. And we were trying to make it a little less artisanal and leave a little bit less to, guessing how are we going to get something to rank. So we basically started with what was like an editor interface that didn't have anything to do with AI. It was an editor interface that gave you, essentially like the growth bar, the like toolbar that told you, okay, how optimized is your blog post for SEO? And then of course, when we heard about OpenAI, we got on the wait list for their beta, and, the obvious next progression of that was, okay, like let's have the tool help you actually write an SEO optimized blog post as well as optimize the blog post. So it grew organically. And like I said, it was a side hustle. It was a side hustle of a side hustle. And then the more we used it at our agency, the more we were like, okay, this is a great tool. We can package it up and sell it.
Nice. When did you, so that's awesome. I love it. You scratched your own itch, so to say. When did you know you had product market fit? Did you have a moment where you felt it? Customers were just coming in? Was it a slow ramp? Was it a day moment? Were you out on a walk one day?
It's funny. Hailey and I are pretty good at acquiring customers, and Growth Marketing Pro had an audience already, it's however many organics it had back then, 50,000 organic visitors a month to the site for all sorts of, various marketing strategies and whatnot, and an email list of, 15, 20,000 people. So when we launched, it was actually that was the moment I was like, oh, wow, we've got a tool here, because we were affiliates for a bunch of other software tools, like webinar software, landing page software, like the Instapages and Unbounces of the world. And all along, Hailey and I were kind of like, we need our own SaaS so that we're not just taking 20% commission. We need something that we can get 100% of the commissions on. And so that was the impetus originally behind creating a SaaS in the first place. So anyway, once we launched, we sort of were right then and there. We were like, oh, cool. We got to, 5,000 MRR in a month or two, something like that. So we pretty immediately knew we had something. And right then and there, I was like, oh my gosh, we got the thing. Now we just need to sell it, more and more of it, to our audience. But then churn starts kicking in. And any SaaS entrepreneur knows that churn is the total death of the whole thing. And it's we got to $5,000 MRR, but then I was like, oh, well, people are churning after 2 months. So we have to keep this wheel moving and moving and moving. And, our email list and our organic traffic is only so big. We can only fill the top of the funnel so much. So I had the moment where I thought we had it, and then churn kicked in, and I was like, oh crap, we don't have this at all.
Brought you back to reality a little bit.
Brought me back to reality real quick. And then I think when I realized that we had something that was actually going to grow to, be in the hundreds of thousands of ARR and beyond, I think was probably when we had our first $1,000 day. I do remember seeing that in Stripe and being like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Well, then that's your moment right there then.
I think that might have been it.
What was, and feel free to give a range, but what was annual recurring revenue when you sold the business?
Yeah, $318,000. You asked for a range. I know what the number was. 318.
I know you would know it, but I didn't know if you're comfortable sharing the exact. Everybody knows their exact revenue. Let's move on to the acquisition process. This is what I really want to hear about. So you built this great product. You found product market fit. It's growing. It's got 6 figures in your recurring revenue. What made you decide to sell the business?
A couple things. One, we needed time back. So our marketing agency, we had a fun process, Hailey and I. So Hailey, my business partner, and I, we met at a startup and we started Growth Marketing Pro. We then, once we sort of fell into GrowthBar and started, really investing in GrowthBar, she and I were looking at each other and we were like, all right, we've got this agency, we've got this SaaS product, and there's only 2 of us. And the agency definitely takes full-time folks, and GrowthBar was beginning to take, a full-time person. So we basically just split up the business, and I took GrowthBar. Hailey took our agency. We hired a couple of people at the agency. And we kind of said to each other, like, let's each just give this a go for like 12 months. Each of us run our own businesses. Of course, we there was plenty of chatting and like figuring out how to grow each one of our businesses. But we sat back and said, okay, let's see in 12 months who's done better here. After 12 months,
little competition going.
It was perfect. I mean, it truly because it also gets you out, we've been working together. Hailey and I have been co-founders for 6 years now or something like that. It's we really get along. We're really great business partners, but your business partner also annoys you no matter what. So it was also just a way for us to just separate for a little bit there and work on our own things and have our own lanes sort of, so that we're not constantly just crossing wires. So we did that for 12 months. Both businesses were growing. We said, all right, let's do it for another 12. And around then we started getting, so after, 24 months here we started getting some inbound acquisition offers and conversations. And so we started taking those, and they were, some of them were pretty interesting. We got one that was a 7-figure offer, but it came with a pretty significant earnout. So we ultimately passed on that. But I mean, the process of going through that made us really think, is it time to sell this thing? And the fact was that the agency still is the biggest business, and it's the biggest, and it's growing the fastest, and it needs the most manpower. So we looked at the 2 businesses, and it's I could spend another year building GrowthBar, but is that really going to add as much value as me spending a year working with Hailey on the agency? And the answer is no. So the second we just, ran those numbers, we were like, oh yeah, well, we should probably sell GrowthBar and focus completely on the agency. So, I mean, that's really the big reason. I mean, the other reason is that we did buy actually another software tool. We're not doing much with it yet. It's called Hopscotch. It's a product onboarding solution. So unfortunately, we didn't buy it on Acquire. We bought it offline. We found Cam, the founder, on Twitter.
It's okay. I forgive you.
We love that product. And quite honestly, we'll probably invest some resources into building it in the future. But it's I couldn't even think about that product. I couldn't even begin to think about it if we were still running GrowthBar. So it just felt like the time was right.
That's smart. I think, especially with the way everything is going with AI, it feels like you kind of saw it at a good peak where the growth opportunities is, I don't know. I truly don't.
I have no idea. We either sold at the peak or we sold way too early.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be either one of those.
Yeah. We'll have to see how that plays out. Okay, so I want to get to the fun start, the fun part. So, you list on Acquire.com. What kind of preparation did you do before you actually went on the marketplace and started speaking with buyers?
Yeah, getting the books in order, I think, is the first thing. We had, I kept pretty solid, P&L and notes and whatnot. I just wanted to make sure. I had to go back I was putting like our DigitalOcean bill was like $800 a month. I just kept putting 800 every month because I wasn't going to go in and check what our actual bill was. It was like 882. Then it was like 753. So anyway, I had to go back and like really get those numbers like hammered out and, check all of our receipts on everything. Had to then, think about like, what is the right range here? So that involved actually looking at like customer churn, waterfalls and whatnot. Then putting like pen to paper on, okay, like here's our revenue, here's our monthly growth, here's our churn. What do we even think a reasonable number is? And of course, as you well know, like the numbers for small startups can be kind of all over the place, which is what we began to realize. And then we worked with Paul on your team. He had a bunch of other stuff that he needed us to do, like, get approved for seller financing. There's
the good old SIM packet.
The offboarding packet and whatnot. Oh my gosh, there was a lot. There was definitely a lot.
But that prep, I mean, what it does is, when you're selling a business, goal number one, obviously is to have a good business, but maybe goal number two is, you want to help buyers understand your business as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So you create that market and that FOMO. So I know a lot about this acquisition, so I don't want to give too much away, but on
the FOMO thing really quick, Andrew, you have the best FOMO technique of all.
Well, hey, let me ask you that in a different way. You go live on acquire.com, you're fully prepared. You have an M&A advisor, Paul, in your corner if you have questions. What happened first week or two?
I forget the exact number of people, but before you guys even emailed the deal out, maybe I'm getting my timelines mixed up. I think you guys didn't even email anyone on the platform yet. And I feel like we had people asking to be in the data room, approve, you have to approve people when they come in or whatever. And then you guys sent the email, I think, to the first 50,000 potential buyers or something like that. And we had 50 people sign a NDA to get into the data room. So it was it was a swell of people in the first 48 hours. I was pretty genuinely shocked. We then had a couple of conversations in the chat portal in the Acquire platform. People seemed pretty interested, got on some calls, and truly got 2 offers basically before 72 hours were up, something like that. Got another offline offer from a firm who was sitting on the sidelines and had approached us, 6 months before. And I had told them, hey guys, we're going to list on Acquire. And, the date is whatever, June 7th or whatever our list date was. And then sure enough, June 6th, they email us and they're like, hey, do you have an updated P&L and all this other stuff? And then sure enough, June 7th, they gave us an offer. So the Acquire platform brought everything together really fast. And it did create that FOMO that just made the thing go.
Well, I mean, a big part of it is it starts with having a good business, and you had a really good business with GrowthBar. So we can't take all the credit there. I do gotta ask, what was the time it took from you going live to getting to a letter of intent with the buyer?
You might know the answer. I
believe it was, I think it was 4 days.
4 days? Yeah, is that right?
I think we went live on Tuesday. Do you care if I give a little bit of context of what?
No, go for it.
Yeah. So for those listening, we have a program that we have for some of the higher value SaaS companies called Guided Acquire. Essentially what we do is we help broker the deal, but we do everything but the buyer calls. And so we did this with Mark. So we took Mark live on Tuesday, and that's for the initial, you're fully prepared, M&A advisor in the background. And Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. And I believe that the big email went out either Wednesday or Thursday. And that's what we call internally basically a targeted newsletter where we go through our database of 200,000 buyers, and we kind of pick buyers that are looking for SaaS businesses doing, in your range of revenue. So it gets really, really specific it basically activates the whole buyer network. And then I believe you signed the LOI on Friday with the buyer.
I think that sounds right. I was a big Friday person. Haley would tell you about let's get this done before the weekend. Let's get it the weekend kills deals. I'm I think that's right. Friday. I think it was Friday.
So how did you end up, and you picked a fantastic buyer. You don't have to name them if you're not comfortable with, but what made you choose that buyer? Because you had multiple offers, correct?
Yeah. I think a few things. One, they had a history on the Acquire platform. Like I know that they've done deals. The one other buyer who came in right around the same had done, I think, only one deal. So like it was all things equal. The known quantity just feels like the right buyer to go with. Two, we had an offer 6 months before that was bigger than the offer that we ended up going with on the Acquire platform, but it just had all these bells and whistles that made it really fun for the acquirer and not so fun for us. Like, 3-year earnout, performance milestones and this, that, and the other thing. And like, it would have been a good name and the money probably would have eventually been better, but it's like, we would have been working for them for a while. Or I would have been working with them for a while. So like, it was a clean transaction, cash, no stock, no earnout, none of that stuff. And with a known buyer who has a history of doing a good job. And then, once we started interacting with them too, they were super relatable. I know they got it, they had all worked at tech companies and like, I kind of saw myself in them a little bit. So it was like really easy then. I was like, oh, these guys kind of get what they're doing. They know the right questions to ask. And it just like felt comfortable and they move quick. It was like literally, like you said, before Friday or by Friday, we had an LOI. I was like, okay, they're serious. Let's do it.
Yeah, those are all good indicators because the quicker they get to an LOI or the quicker they get to responding to questions they ask or sending you additional questions they may have. That's kind of what due diligence is going to be like. If it's really slow getting the LOI, if it's really slow getting question responses, due diligence is going to be just like that. And I like how you went with a more experienced buyer because your chances of closing are higher when you do that. Because the last thing you want to do is sign an LOI and you have all these other buyers interested and then it falls through and then you have to go back to the other buyers and kind of explain what happened, even if it's just something like we didn't get along or they didn't have the funding or something like that. So
it's crazy to me, by the way, like this was the first company that I've sold for any substantial amount of money. I sold a blog back when, but it was for 5 figures. Didn't have this level of scrutiny and diligence. It's crazy to me that an LOI is completely binding. So like you can sign an LOI and a day later that entity can say, oh, actually we like don't have enough money, or actually like this wasn't the deal we thought it was. And then you've had to tell every other buyer to go away. And then all of a sudden you're going to have to go back to the well in a position of like, and not a powerful position. You're going to say, oh, oops, our like deal fell through. Like, are you guys still interested? Sort of thing. It's just crazy to me that that's how like the world works. But like, it's not your guys' fault. It's just crazy that happens.
The importance of, being on the same page with the buyer when you sign an LOI. And one thing I always recommend is a pre-LOI signing call where you just kind of openly say like, hey, I'm Mark, I have these other offers on the table. Can we walk through your plan with the business? How are you going to finance it? Just to get that last bit of confidence and let them know that like I really do have other buyers and please don't just sign this, lock it up, and you're barely going to be able to make this work.
Right.
So that's a little tip there.
That is a good tip.
So I guess final questions. If you had to give advice to someone looking to sell their business, what's like the top 3 pieces of advice you give them?
I say one, it's like build. This is the worst advice. If I were a founder, I'd like turn this video off right now, but like build a good company. Like it's really like, it's that simple. Like you try and, show growth, show customer acquisition, make your lifetime value better. It's like at the end of the day, like you kind of need it all. Like everything is going to come out when a buyer looks at a business and in diligence. And like, it's like every like flaw your business has is like a tick down. You're like, so it's just like you have this number in your mind and then like, oh, your churn is a little too high. So like, let's actually just like take 20% off that. And then you're like, your customer growth was a little lower in the last 3 months. Let's take 20% off that. So it's like, you really just like your whole business has to be complete. And like, there's kind of nothing you can hide, so to speak. I think the second thing is like, I still so believe in organic growth and not just SEO. I mean, definitely SEO, but like what you're doing with Acquire and your like, brand on social, on Twitter and probably LinkedIn and the other places I don't go as much, but like organic growth still, particularly for, bootstrap startups, like you've got to find a way to reduce your customer acquisition costs, because every venture-backed company who you're competing against has enough money to outspend you on all the paid channels, and they're doing all the stuff that like you should probably be doing. So like your wedge from a go-to-market standpoint has to be something free and cheap: referral coefficient, affiliate marketing, SEO, social media. Like it's just got to be low cost. The third thing we were talking about before, which is like lifetime value, finding that wedge. Like you've got to have a high LTV customer. I think it's like the most important thing in all of business, and something that like isn't talked about enough, because we always hear growth, customer growth, but like customer growth can't cover up a product that has tons of churn. Like you've got to figure out a way to get your best customers using your product more, paying you more, asking for new features, et cetera, et cetera. Like if you're hearing from your best customers, that's probably a good thing, honestly.
That, that you gave no acquisition advice, but I agree with you. Yes. If you build
list on Acquire, that's the last thing, honestly. Like I wrote a blog post about this, and like you guys have opened up the like world of M&A for small businesses. I think it's like an awesome thing for entrepreneurship and for entrepreneurs, and like truly list on Acquire, even if nothing more to move your other conversations along.
I mean, I actually agree with that too. But I appreciate the compliment. But yeah, no, really, the better the business, easier to sell. There's a saying, the best businesses you don't want to sell. So
true.
The better your business, it just makes everything easier. So congrats again on that acquisition. So tell me a little bit, just to end out the podcast, tell me more about Growth Marketing Pros and what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah. We are a marketing agency focused primarily on search marketing. It's where Hailey and I have had the most success throughout our career. It's what built GrowthBar. So that means search marketing, SEO, and SEM. So search engine optimization, getting Google to love you organically, and then search engine marketing, Google ads, Bing ads, or Microsoft ads, whatever they call themselves. And we dabble in some other PPC channels as well. But I think, what our clients love about us, we work with clients who are, everywhere from Bootstrapped up to actually even a public company, but they're primarily software businesses, SaaS companies. And I think they really like working with us because we inject a growth strategy as well. Hailey and I are the point of contact for almost every business we work with. And, you're not just getting passed off to some young person executing your SEO or SEM strategy. Like it's coming from a place of experience, and, we're going to help you figure out the best way to optimize your budget and, obviously get customers in the door in big numbers. So yeah, Growth Marketing Pro is a full service SEO, SEM agency.
Nice. If people want to hear more about just your personal story and journey, and just maybe reach out for a chat, where can they find you online?
Yeah, growthmarketingpro.com. You can check our About Us page out, or email me anytime, mark@growthmarketingpro.com.
Cool. I'll put that on the show notes. But Mark, congrats again on the acquisition. I think you may have set a record with the size of the acquisition, and then also the time in which it closed. So
that's incredible.
So bravo.
Love hearing it. You're going to have to replace your tile from Web3 to AI so that people can find AI startups. I saw somebody hounding you about that on Twitter.
I know. We're literally working on that right now. Like I'm sick of seeing all these AI startups because they're under SaaS, and we're going to make a new category, and then you get that new category. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully it doesn't go by the wayside.
Yeah, I agreed. Well, Mark, congrats again. Hopefully maybe you'll be back on here in a couple of years or in the near future. You never know. But congrats on the acquisition, and I'm rooting for everything you got going on.
Thanks, Andrew. And I'm rooting for you guys in Acquire.
All right. Appreciate that. Cheers, Mark.
All right.